Sarasota is a great place to live, but it's definitely not for everybody. Let's start with the good and get that out of the way first, because odds are you already know about all of the good things Sarasota has to offer. And you're really here for the bad and the ugly, right? But first, my name is Zach Payne, and I'm a local real estate agent who was born and raised here in Sarasota. And I've heard all the reasons why people hope and dream of moving here. But I've also heard all the reasons why, for some, it was a terrible nightmare that they couldn't get out of any sooner. So in this video, we're talking Sarasota, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, starting with the good. My number one point is the beaches. Just the choice of beaches at that. From Anna Maria up north, to Longboat Key, to Lido Key Beach, and of course Siesta Key, the most popular of them all. With the beautiful quartz sand that keeps your feet cool even in 90-degree weather. It truly is an amazing place to be. Plus, I love the vibe out on the key. It feels like totally different than the rest of Sarasota. People just move slower out there. Nobody's in a rush, everybody's happy. If a t-shirt and flip-flops is the normal attire, that's where you want to be. Which leads me into my next good thing about Sarasota, and that is the weather. Now, I am saying this comparatively, so yes, the weather is better in Sarasota than a city that has to deal with shoveling snow off their driveways to get to work, or deal with ice on the roads, or just the dark, gloomy, gray weather for months and months on end. Sarasota has a tropical climate. It's warm. A lot of the time, it's downright hot. It averages in the summer months about 90-degree days, while in the winter months, it drops down to a brisk 70 degrees. But no snow, no dealing with black ice or being snowed in for days, and no gray and gloomy weather for months on end. Now, my number 3 point is the activities and events. Sarasota is awesome when it comes to events. There's activities for anyone and everyone going around all year long. From weekly farmers markets, to Christmas parades and decorations, to chalk festivals, food vendors, meetups, and so much more. Sarasota has so much culture-packed events. You'll have a harder time trying to decide what to do each week than trying to find something to do. And my number 4 point is its lifestyle. A little background about Sarasota: usually those hoping for a smaller town and slower paced lifestyle migrated to the Gulf Coast of Florida, the West Coast, while those looking for a bigger city vibe and faster pace likely moved to the East Coast. Because of that, the demographic of Sarasota is usually filled with more laid-back, small-town, Midwestern people. Similarly, the West Coast cities were on average more affordable than their East Coast counterparts. So Sarasota used to see more modest, hardworking, everyday people, if that makes any sense. All in all, Sarasota is not New York, it's not Los Angeles, and it's not Miami. And that's exactly what the people who moved here love about it. Okay, now on to the bad. My first bad point is the traffic. The traffic now is worse than it's ever been. With construction and vacationers and elderly who don't know where they're going, it can go from an annoying inconvenience to a very dangerous point really fast. Sarasota County is constantly changing traffic patterns with new diverging diamonds, roundabouts, and road extensions constantly being added. Even locals struggle to figure out what's going on, and throw somebody new to the city into the mix, and it gets bad. Plus, once rush hour comes along, which is now any time between 4 and 7 p.m., most major intersections are blocked up with people who don't care if the light is red or not. They're going to sit in the middle of the intersection and not allow anyone else to pass. My number 2 point is the weather. Now, although I had this as a point in my pros, the summer heat can be brutal, and some days it's hard to be outside even when walking to your car. For those who can't handle the heat, it will be difficult enjoying yourself here at certain times of the year. I know my girlfriend is very sensitive to the heat, and we can only be outside for about an hour at a time before she starts to get lightheaded. So all of the fun summer activities like the farmers markets and the chalk festivals, we can only experience for about an hour at a time. Now, my number 3 negative is it's not what people expected. Now, this is an interesting one. Whenever I hear it, I always ask for people to elaborate, but they can rarely place a finger on it exactly. But they will always say something along the lines of, I miss insert hometown, or it lacks the lifestyle we expected, or we thought we'd be going out to the beach more often, but we can only get out there once a week with the way the traffic is. Okay, now on to the ugly. And my number 1 reason is the affordability. Sarasota is becoming unaffordable for many who once dreamed of living here. With the increased demand ever since COVID, home prices are skyrocketing and are only now slowly starting to decrease. With rates expected to decrease, bringing more buyers into the market, I believe we will see another spike in home prices in the near future. Now, my number 2 ugly point is the angry people. This is a weird one, but it's true in my experience. I don't know if the world in general is becoming more angry, and it's not just Sarasota, but I see more and more road rage, impatient people, and angry people than I ever remember seeing. I'm constantly hearing people say something along the lines of, go somewhere else, we're full here, find somewhere else to live, go back to the state that you moved from. And I know Sarasota has an extreme amount of tourists as well as elderly people who don't really know where they're going. But driving in certain areas of Sarasota at certain times can be very stressful, even for a born and raised local like myself. The last thing I need is somebody blaring their horn and flicking me off in my rearview mirror. I can't even imagine what these other people are feeling. And now my final ugly point is the hurricanes. Now this one really speaks for itself. Hurricanes are probably the worst thing about living in Florida. Luckily, Sarasota has been grazed by many devastating storms throughout the years, but has managed to escape pretty much untouched. That doesn't mean that many of Sarasota homeowners haven't experienced damage. Those with large trees in their yard or close to their homes run the risk of having branches fall or whole trees come collapsing down on their roofs. As sturdy as these big trees look, when the ground becomes saturated with water, it loosens up the roots and the base of the tree, and it becomes more susceptible to falling over. Not to mention, there are certain areas of Sarasota and surrounding areas that are lower lying and at a greater risk of flooding, plus loss of shingles. But the worst part about hurricanes is the insurance repercussions that we have been facing here. Insurance premiums are doubling and even tripling in some instances. And even worse, some insurance companies are leaving Florida altogether. All right, guys, that's Sarasota. All the good, all the bad, and the ugly. Let me know, after hearing it all, do you still want to move here? If so, then this might be a good video for you to watch, where I dive into why Sarasota's housing market isn't going to crash. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.